Okay, section 2.4. That is correct. We do not have a highlight video for this because there was nothing in it to highlight. No new information. They wanted a place where they could kind of get you to use up all the knowledge you have so far and try to really stretch your mind with proofs. And this is where they kind of show how they want you to set them up, but I'd rather you stick with this way. They don't always prove everything. They're trying to develop people's logic. Hopefully yours is already developed, so we don't have to worry about that. I think it probably is. Even without all the logic classes that you've had, I think yours will probably be developed more than what they expect it to be. Because you're really smart. I can't help it, you are. So I have this written down as the first problem we're doing today, so I made it number 1. Didn't come from anywhere in the book, came out of my head. Probably not true. It probably came from somewhere in the book, but this is the one I pulled, so I don't know where in the book it came from. There's no telling. Could be on the side, might not even be in your book. Who knows? Unimportant. Okay, so for this particular problem, go ahead and write it down. I've already got the format there, and I'd like for you to take some time and see if you can come up with the reasons. So you're going to have to pause the tape because I'm getting ready to pause it, which means we're going to pop right into the next thing, and you're going to see the reasons popped up there. So I'm going to count to 3, and then the reasons are going to be there. You ready? 1, 2, better pause it quickly, 3. I know you doubted me, but there they are, just that quickly. Okay, so the first one was given to us, obviously. I told you that should always be given. The reason should always be given. And the second one was the definition of congruent segments. Once again, it's how we go from algebraic to geometric. And then I can use geometric rules and definitions so that we have definition of midpoint as my reason for the third one. Now, over here, this really is problem number 15 in your book on page 66. I went ahead and set up the format, including drawing the picture that's there. If you can't read that very well, it's on page 66. Just go ahead and turn to it, copy it down. Now, I fit all of mine into 5 steps. I want you to pause and see just how many of this you can get filled in. If you can't get it all filled in, that's okay. We'll do it together in a minute. If you can, then go ahead and try. Let's see how close you are to what I have. And once again, just because you don't have exactly what I have does not mean that yours is incorrect. Just means that you didn't do it the exact way I did. It also doesn't mean that yours is right. Throw that out there. Just that you didn't do it the exact way that I did. Okay. Gonna start talking. 1, 2. You know, I'm gonna quit giving you those 3s. I'm just gonna go ahead and go right into it, and then you'll be stuck. You gotta be quicker on this pause thing, I'm telling you. Okay, so they gave us the angle 1, that's what that says, angle 1. If you'd look in your book, you said angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, so that's what I write down. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. Ooh, that accommodating. And the reason is given. You notice how the easy one I had already filled in for you? That was good, right? Yep. Just saying. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 4. And the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3. You think I can fit it in? You can always fit stuff in. That's our definition of congruent angles. What does that mean to me? Well, over here, it means that this angle is congruent to that angle, and this angle is congruent to that angle. We're supposed to be talking about, I bet that's supposed to be at X. Sorry. We're supposed to be talking about this big angle here and that big angle there. So, yeah. Well, from the picture, we can say that, how do I do this in the thing? Pardon me a second. Measure of angle 1 plus, measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 2. Because since they're equal, I just added that angle to both sides of my equal statement there. So when I added that angle to both sides, that's the addition property of equality. Now I have the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 4. But I want it to be angle 4 plus angle 3 over there. But since I know that this is true, I can just substitute that 3 in place of that one. So that gives me the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 3, and that's the substitution property. Of equality. Now, I'm going to restate this. The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is really the measure of angle RXT. And that has to equal the measure of angle YXV, because that's what 3 and 4 are. And we know that by angle addition. Told you we call it that, not that definition of between stuff they try to do. By angle addition, which leads us to the sixth statement. They didn't even write 6 down. Anyway, leads us to the sixth statement, which says that since this is equal to that, that means that angle RXT is congruent to angle YXV by definition of congruence. Definition of congruent angles. I'm much neater up here than I am down there. Anyway, so I have proven what they asked me to prove. So remember, this needs to always be your last one. I thought I fit it into this 6. I must have miscount. Oh, I did miscount. Well, that's good enough. Dyslexia rules again. Okay, so that's problem number 15. Next, we're going to be looking at problem number 16. While I go through the time to erase this, you go ahead and try to set up the format for 16 and do as much of it as you can. You don't even have to pause because I'm going to erase that before I start writing again. That should give you some time. Would you like some music while we do this? Let's try this. Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly want to be. For if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would fall in love with me. Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly wish to be. For if I was an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would fall in love with me. You know, I'm not getting any royalties from Oscar Mayer. I'm just saying, I should get something for that. Just saying. Okay. Number 16. angle YXS is congruent to angle RXW. Prove. Angle 1 congruent to angle 4. To draw my picture again, even though you've got a picture right there beside you, you should draw it again. Make sure you label it as T V W 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Got my statements over here. Got my reasons over here. I got lots of reasons. Reasons for everything. I mean, really. The real rule about statements and reasons, well, the real rule about reasons is that if it's not on that theorem page, it needs to be somewhere on your definitions page. Otherwise, it's really not supposed to be able to go on that statement, on that reason column. When you're searching for a reason and you can't think of what it could possibly be, those are the pages you turn back to. That's why we're making a list of them. Just saying, there's a purpose for everything. Okay. So, I hope you got this far. This is pretty decent. I mean, it's not done by any stretch of the imagination, but it is started correctly, and that's good. Right now, this is like something I would have expected to see from section 2.3. Started correctly. Great. I expect to see statement 1 and reason 1 to be correct too, just saying. Question is, what do you think about statement 2? And then really, what do you think about statement 3, 4, and 5? So, statement 1 should be angle YXS is congruent to angle RXW. The reason should be because it's given. I know that was a shock to you. Now, there are a couple of ways I could go with this. I could go ahead and break down that this is really angle 1 plus angle 2, and this is really angle 3 plus angle 4, and this is really angle 1 plus angle 2. I could go about it that way. Or I could go about it by saying we need to put it into algebraic terms, that we can do subtraction of stuff, because we're really trying to get down to the parts of it, improve parts of it. Or there are a couple of different things we have in our wheelhouse now that we can pull from. And you don't have to do yours a certain way, and you don't have to not do yours a certain way. So I'm going to show you my way, and then you can fill in the reasons that those are true. Or I could give you reasons, and you could fill in statements of why those are true. I'll tell you what, we'll start with the first reason that I used. First reason was definition of congruency. Definition of congruent angles. What do you think the statement would be? I hope you would say that since we're talking about the definition of congruency, what that means is that the measure of angle this is equal to the measure of angle that. So you write the measure of angle YXS equals the measure of angle RXW. I hope that's what you got. This is just the way I decided to do it this time. Then for my next statement, I wrote the measure of angle YXS minus the measure of angle SXW equals the measure of angle RXW minus the measure of angle SXW. What did I do to both sides? I subtracted a number specifically. Not just an angle, but I subtracted a whole number out because it was a measure. So up here, to look at the picture, we started out with YXS, and we subtracted out SXW. So I'm taking that whole top out, so that just gives me this little angle left. Over here, we have RXW minus SXW. So it subtracted that whole part out, which just left us with this little angle left. Now, the way I did that was I subtracted some stuff, specifically numbers, which means you have to use the subtraction property of equality. Statement number 4. I wrote the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 4. And all I did was simplify. So instead of saying this minus that, I wrote what was left. I simplified this side and I simplified that side. And then for number 5, that means that angle 1 has to be congruent to angle 4. By definition, congruent angle. I told you to use that definition of congruency a lot in order to get in and out of geometric and algebraic statements. Now, what you want to know is what is your classwork and homework for this section? Well, I just did it. It was problem number 16. You helped me do it. That made it classwork. I've already explained it to you. Isn't that cool? No homework for this section because the next section is just like this section. In fact, if you'd wanted to do it today, you could. But my guess is you really want to go ahead and be done for today. That's fine too. Tomorrow, there is a little bit of highlighting to do. And then there is a small, and I do mean small, video for classwork where we go over one problem and then I give you tons of homework and classwork. Oh, no, I really don't need a ton. Maybe a little bit, but homework and classwork nonetheless. So, see you tomorrow. Be excited. Okay, bye.